As I said, let us talk about the character of Hamlet. Obviously, the play is after his name, so naturally, he has he is the central character. क्यों भाई? हीरो है प्ले का, माइलेज तो खाएगा ही खाएगा. Anyways, to begin with, let us know that Hamlet is a prince of Denmark. He is the son of late King Hamlet and Gertrude. We know that Hamlet's father has been killed by his own uncle Claudius, who got married to his own bhabi, that is, Hamlet's mother, Gertrude. So he is now the stepson of his uncle Claudius. If we consider Western literature, Hamlet's character is one of the much talked about. The reasons could be many because of the complexity of his character, maybe because of his inactive nature, maybe because of many psychological layers to his personality. We can say that he is multi-layered character. He is perhaps an odd man in the tradition of a revenge play. Hamlet's character is not suitable for a revenge play. What one need in a revenge play is the character. That character should be always on fire, always doing something dishum, dishum. But we find Hamlet thinks more about the justice than about the revenge. So we say, if Hamlet would have been in the place of Macbeth and Macbeth in place of Hamlet, perhaps there would have been no tragedies at all. Both the characters would have done the required things which is necessary for them. Anyways, leave it for some other discussion. Being a university student, well educated, cultured, he goes through constant conflict. The worldly views about certain principles are not matching what he believes, especially after having talked with his father. With his father's ghost, it is his endless musing, or we can say thinking, about the life and death which lead to his very famous inaction. Sometimes, sometimes he finds this life is meaningless. That leads him for the world famous soliloquy, to be or not to be, that is the question. Hamlet is poetic by nature. He is given to thinking or brooding always. But he is even playful by nature. His brooding nature is reflected in that famous soliloquy, to be or not to be, that is the question. While his playfulness can be seen when he is asked about the dead body of Polonius, or when Polonius wants to know what he is reading. He just says words, words, and words. Hamlet's Hamlet's character is like an enigma in the theater. It is very difficult to understand and analyze as well. Hamlet's character can be analyzed based on his relationship with important characters, and the kind of a task given to him by his father, that is, the ghost. The ghost, no doubt, is a very significant character in the play Hamlet. It performs its dramatic function by telling a truth to his son. We are not concerned whether the ghost exists or not. But the Elizabethans did believe in the supernatural elements. We, being the very developed society of rational thinking, rational living, we may not believe in these supernatural elements. But the ghost in the play Hamlet gives a kind of a impulse, or you can say a kind of a boost to the action of the play. The presence of these supernatural elements like ghosts or witches can be interpreted as the hidden voice of the certain mind. There is always a chance to think that Hamlet must have some doubt about the death of his father. The suspicion regarding the King Hamlet's death can be seen in the words of the guards as well. The ghost could be seen as the chorus in the Greek tragedy as well. One another attribution to Hamlet's character is that he is the lover of Polonius' daughter Ophelia. We understand that Ophelia tells her brother that Hamlet seems romantically involved in her. Later on, we understand that Hamlet admits he had loved Ophelia, but because but because he was a prince, his attention could be a temporary one, or it could be infatuation. In the mood, Hamlet admits his relationship with Ophelia. It can be seen as his pretension. It is very difficult to believe fully. He gives a chance to pursue about their relations. Ophelia is given short sentences. She uses the words very sparingly. Many people speak to her as if to give an order to her. She obeys these orders like a fragile Elizabethan woman. When Hamlet calls her in the most disgraceful language and asks her to get thee to nunnery, she only feels bad about these words. She is a good native girl who wants to please her father and her lover Hamlet as well. She is a father's daughter, obeys him. When Father Polonius asks her to end her relationship with Hamlet because he thinks he is using her, she replies, I shall obey, my lord. She even keeps an eye on Hamlet on the suggestion of her father. Ophelia failed to be with Hamlet when he needed it most. Though love of Ophelia and Hamlet is very integrated part of Hamlet, her appearance only in 5 scenes out of all 20 scenes of the play make audience forget her presence in the main action of the play, that is revenge. Ophelia's character seems to have only two main tasks. One is to bring in the emotional content in the play and some kind of hinge for several of Hamlet's analytical scenes. Is really Ophelia in love with Hamlet? Yes, she is. Because she always have high regard and respectful words for Hamlet and his family. She goes mad because of her father's death. She cannot bear that her father has been murdered. Hamlet, though tenderly loved her in the beginning of the play, later on, later on becomes aggressive to her. That made Ophelia distance from him. Shakespeare describes her Shakespeare describes her as soft and fair, and even critics call her poor and fragile. She is honest. A sensitive girl after her death, Hamlet lives in her grave, and his words, even even 40,000 brothers could not, with all their quantity of love, make my sum, talks about his love for Ophelia. Hamlet is worried character. His main worry is that distorts his soul how his own mother could be the part of that scheme his uncle Claudius has played. His father is firm about Claudius' role, but Ghost's words, spare your mother for God's punishment, create a kind of a dilemma in the mind of the Hamlet. He decisive about the revenge to be taken, but is confused about his mother, Gertrude. Sigmund Freud finds elements of Oedipus complex in their relationship. Hamlet is angry immediately after the death of his father. The crowning ceremony for his uncle is happening. He even cracks a kind of a black joke to Horatio, saying that the funeral cakes are served in the crowning ceremony. The brutal way he treats his mother in the bedchamber is remarkable. He shows picture of his late father and asks about what was so special in his uncle which his father did not have that made him marry within 2 months of his father's death. His words like she has, Like Gertrude has eyes without feeling, feelings without sight, ears without hands or eyes, smelling sands are so piercing. Her late husband, his father, and the present husband, the king and the stepfather. Hamlet manages to create a kind of a hatred in the mind of his mother regarding Claudius, irrespective of high regard for Gertrude in his mind. We know, we know from there on, Gertrude perhaps is not integrated character and in remorse drinks the poisonous drink and finally dies. Hamlet, no doubt, is a tragic hero. In spite of the goodness, the tragic flaw in him, that is, inaction and overthinking, leads him to tragic effects. He is a deep melancholic thinker. He is given to the philosophical thinking of his life. The questions like truth and other things like marriage, all these bring about a kind of a distress in Hamlet to the level of generalizing frailty, thy name is woman, by which he considers all women to be frail and weak. This expression has become almost like a proverb. In all his seven soliloquies, Hamlet is highly contemplative, thinking, and brooding. He calls Gertrude frail because she did not show any resistance for the manipulations of Claudius. To him, Ophelia is frail because she is dependent on men. In spite Hamlet's fiend madness, his contemplation on life and death, and many more things that happen in the play lead to Hamlet's death in duel. Hamlet is a smart fellow as well because the very smartly he decides to use the drama company to know the truth of his father's death. Emotionally, emotionally trap the king and the queen later on, though by chance. When he comes to know the plan of a king, he smartly deletes his name from the letter carried by Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. He returns to Denmark, perhaps to set everything in order. But he finds Ophelia has died. His very spirit is no more. This perhaps made him weak. His memories are very fond after seeing the Yorick skull, and yet it underlines the decay of a body. This larger and a time back happening has made Hamlet accept Ophelia's death. Later on, Hamlet no doubt fights. But he fights only with his acquired skills and not in his spirit. That is what I think. Well, friends, I have said Shakespeare's characters are eternal subject for one's brooding. Somewhere you have to leave them. So much has been written on him. I am turning to speak on Ophelia. So much has been written on her as well. Ophelia is a young daughter of Polonius. As you know by now, Polonius happens to be very close friend of King Claudius. Ophelia is young and beautiful. She is the main character because our hero, Hamlet, is in love with her. The main friction of her character is that she is a divide between her father and her lover Hamlet. This conflict really brings tragedy in her life. Ophelia meets a tragic death because she cannot survive without men. Apparently, three men in her life: her brother Laertes, her father Polonius, and her lover Hamlet. All these show a great impact on her life. Her father asks her to keep an eye on Hamlet on the direction of King Claudius. Her brother Laertes gives her doses of great philosophy, saying that this is not good and that is not good. And her last resort, that is, Hamlet, behaves with her madly. So she is confused and torn between these three men. She is like a parasite growing on these three trees. She has least of her own identity. She is not independent. Her submissive nature allows the men in her life to mold her in the way they want to. Her father makes too much of it. Sometimes she stands out as the feminist character as well, where she is not just a passive character. She becomes a complex character and raises the questions about the gender roles and the mental health. Ophelia boldly tells Ophelia boldly tells her brother about her relationship with Hamlet. When Hamlet enters the sewing room, she does not let him even touch her. Though Polonus is a father who is scheming, manipulative, she manages him with the gentle words. Despite knowing that Hamlet is genuine one, she decides to follow her father's orders and mild words. That is why she is loved by the majority of the characters in the play. She is loyal to her father and brother. We see throughout the play Hamlet shows, or rather we can say endorses, his love for her. Her concern for Hamlet, more than love, is expressed when she says, "O heavenly powers, restore him," or "What a noble mind is here overthrown." She dies for no fault of her under the ambiguous circumstances. To Hamlet, to great extent, all the women are ruled by sexual desire. So he is cruel to her and his mother as well. She is innocent. She is innocent, uncrafty, and given to Hamlet's love. There are certain moments in the play when she proves she is a epitome of the womanhood. Polonus reads love letters of Hamlet written to Ophelia, stating that doubt thou the stars are fire, doubt that the sun doth move, doubt truth be a lawyer, but never doubt I love thine evermore. Despite this love, Ophelia is like a shadow of all men in the play. Friends, I have said Shakespeare's characters are the matter of a constant thinking. Whatever you think about them, there is always a different perspective to those characters. Here, I conclude the talk about Hamlet and Ophelia. You can study them from different perspectives. For exams, I think my talk is okay. You can enter in the cave of William Shakespeare and find more and more interesting things. Do watch and subscribe my channel DMS Underlines. You can place your comments also and expectations as well. Love you and thank you all.